Yo, what's up? Let's see if I can actually get some. Abangene abantu. Come on, guys. Welcome, guys. Welcome, guys. Welcome, guys. Ninjani Ibantu. How's it? How's it? Sanibona, Molweni, Rumerang, Home, Ankia. It's not day now, it's night, Gonja. How's it, my people? Tumela. Likai. Minjani. Ipfukini. Yo. Today, my people, I want us to talk about something a little interesting. Something a little interesting, you know. Not those deep subjects. Well, I mean, every subject can be deep. I want us to talk about borrowed words, ne? Borrowed words, but not just borrowed words, but also like slang words and the culture of slang and the cultural impact of both borrowed words or the very culture of borrowing and using words as slang, the cultural impact of that. You know, I want us to have a look at that because as we grow up, you know, I used to use words like, I mean, I don't use those words like that anymore, but words like majita, ekse majita, or some people say majika, ekse majika, but we don't really look at where these words come about. Words like majimbos, magents. Well, obviously, gents comes from gentlemen, but you know, slang has such a long history that does deserve to be explored as well. Hola. Slang does. Yabona out yam. Ekse cow. Hola cow. So. It's crazy, you know, with slang because you find yourself using Latin words, you know, like or words from Latin languages and Romance languages like hola, you know, hola, vaya. You see those words you find in Romance languages like vai means to go. Hola is a greeting. That's the beauty of slang. We mix everything. Eita da. And then when you say thank you, you'd say ta. But perhaps even more interesting is words that are used in Tsotsital, but the prison lingo. Oh, yam, thank you. Words that are used in the prison lingo, you know. I think it's very important that I talk about these words because I see people don't know the origins of some of the words. I'm going to talk about Pakamisa, you know, the correct pronunciation. Pakamisa. Wosh, home, hoi. You know, it's amazing. But Pakamisa is probably one of the most famous ones. And people always misinterpret it. And obviously there's context in which these words are used. But Pakamisa simply means lift, you know. So if you, at school as children, if the teacher is asking a question and the teacher wants to establish order, The teacher is going to say, if you want to answer, phakamisa. If you want to answer, phakamisa isandla. Don't just answer, don't howl. We're not animals. Phakamisa. You understand? Which means lift up. We know it means lift up your hand, but it could mean lift up anything. Now, obviously, in the prison system, in the world of gangsterism, phakamisa still means the exact same thing, but in the sense of lifting up signs, gang signs. If you're in the 28th, 26th, 27th, and different groups, in the township, there's different groups. There's hard livings. You've got Vatos Locos, you've got Voras Tupa, all those different groups. Hey, my daughter, it's been a while. But phakamisa then has significance in that sense. In reality, it means just lift up, man. And as much as the people who use these words know what they're saying by phakamisa, a lot of the times when I hear people explaining it, I'm like, Mara, you're just lying about the meaning. So phakamisa means lift your hand. Now you're lifting your hand in the context in which you are lifting your hand. If you're lifting your hand in the context of gangsterism and gang signs, then you're going to lift your hand in that context. If you're lifting your hand in the context of school, that's a different context. So yes, the words are definitely highly dependent on context. But the words themselves have origin in actual languages. And it's not just slang. That's another dangerous thing, you see. It's another dangerous thing. When people ask, what is the word phakamisa? Someone's going to say, no, it's slang. No, it's not slang. Phakamisa is not slang. Phakamisa is an actual word. It's even a name, actually. I know a guy that I grew up with called Phakamisa. That's his name. Because phakamisa means to lift up. So if you're giving your child the name Phakamisa, you're not giving your child because they're a gangster. You're giving them because you want them to uplift the family name or something. So it's very dependent on context. Very, very. And then you have insizwa. Yes, insizwa, a young man, a man of age, insizwa is a young, strong man in the peak of youth. That's what insizwa is. Is a young man who's in the peak of youth. Good age to be ready for war. Good age to train for war. That's insizwa. Now, the guys who are in prison will call each other insizwa because obviously they've got an order there, mimicking the military order. That's why you've got generals, you've got this, you've got that. So they call each other insizwa because then they have to obviously purport the idea of being strong. Because insizwa, that's what insizwa is. Someone who's strong. Not just anyone is insizwa. Whereas unongoloza is actually a person's name. It's actually a person's name. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into prison stuff, but nongoloza is a name. It's a personal name. There's a story about the origin of the whole thing of nongoloza. It has to do with Amazulu and Amampondo in prison back in the day. Yeah, but that's a person's name. So the thing, I like this comment. The beauty of slang is that it shows our interconnectedness as a people. Absolutely. Slang shows our interconnectedness as a people. That's absolutely true. And I can't reiterate it any further. That's true. And I've always felt like that. People who look down on slang don't understand how it can easily connect people. It shows. It literally shows, patterns of, connection between people. So I just like, exploring the origins of these words. We have a guest here. You wanna say something? Milky boy.
Hello, sir.
Hello. How's it? Okay, not sure what's up there. No, the language is not really called Sabela. Sabela is Sabela is a word that means to respond. Actually, that's another one. That's another one. Sabela is a word that means to respond. So if your mother is calling you, Ne? If your mother's calling you, literally, if your mother's calling you, when you respond, the verb to respond means ukusabela. Yabona? It means ukusabela. So ukusabela means to answer. To answer, to respond, to. So when someone says sabela, they're saying, okay, look, answer now, respond back. But in the context of then the prison system, obviously, ukusabela is to speak in that context, to speak the language. You don't sabela in English. You understand that? So you have to sabela in the tal. I just forgot what it's called. There's a way in which it's called. I really forgot. I'm not gonna lie. I forgot it. When I was still younger, I knew what it was called. There was a word we used, but I'm gonna find the word and I'm gonna find the word and I'll make another video about it. King Matsemela said that they have a language. They have a question. Yeah, no, come through with your question. And that's the thing. Even with Afrikaans, even with Afrikaans, like if you look at the language itself, you find words like lapa for like a house, the house with the touch, which comes from Sesotho lilapa, a family home. You find words like khoga for like a monster or a creepy little insect, something like that, which comes from Kwe languages. It's a completely different thing, but it's basically a monster. And that's the thing about a slang, or even languages that we speak today. I mean, in Sesotho and Setswana speaking peoples, there's the word bereka, the word bereka. I literally thought the word bereka comes from these languages. And then I realized, no, man, it's werk. Werk, it's literally Afrikaans, Dutch, werk. It comes from there because the word, you find it in even in Kwe languages. The people who interacted with Afrikaners and Dutch ended up with the word werk, ubereka, which we also use the word span, span. Which makes sense why then in Sepedi they use the word ushuma for ukusebenza. But also you can see in Sesotho they had the word sebetsa originally. Sebetsa. So there must have been an older word in Setswana as well instead of bereka, which is clearly like werk. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. Guys, today I want to talk about slang. I'm not gonna be too long, I'm not gonna be long at all. So I can see the questions. I will answer those that I can. Someone asked me imilowo and imilonde. Imilowo, it's people that you are related to by blood. Literally, it's blood family. So your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents, the people you are related to by blood, those people are called imilowo. Imilonde is the elders. Imilonde kaya, abantu balonda ikaya. People who preserve the bloodline, people who preserve the family. It's basically elders, highly experienced people in the bloodline. So yeah. So the word berega then reminds me again of another word, sbali, sbali, which is zwaar, or in Dutch, zwager, it's sbali. Sbali for brother-in-law, which we have actual words, indigenous words for that. And we also have the word squeezer. Squeezer is Dutch. It's squonzes. Squonzes. In Afrikaans, sister. That's your sister-in-law. Literally. So when people use words like squeezer, words like sbali, those are just words that come from other languages that have had actual cultural impact and have found ways in culture. They found ways in culture. Londega, what does londega mean? Londega means to be preservable, preservable, to be preservable. You know,
Sure, my
that's
brother.
the name you're gonna give someone that you wanna bless them to be a source of preservation for the family. I'm gonna answer one more question and let the guests ask their question. Jay Jafta is asking, what does Zidwesha and Zidwangube mean? Zidwesha, it's a plural for Isidwesha, Xhosa word which means a noble person. Isidwangube Isidwangube used to be like an indigenous medal that people of note, people who are highly respected used to wear. It was a skin parchment, maybe with beads, with some precious metals and stones, made nice and beautiful, like a kind of traditional medal that a man would wear when they go maybe to a ceremony, a wedding, etc. Isitwangube. So people who wear those things were then called Isitwangube. So yeah, Isitwangube was like an ornamental parchment that people used to wear, like a certificate or something like that. Ipedu is not a necklace. Ipedu is a bronze. It's bronze. It's a it's a precious metal. It's bronze. Matsemel,
Sure, my brother.
what's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Oh yeah, I have two questions that I wanted to know.
Yeah.
The first question is, what's your understanding of inzalo inyanga, inzalo
Ila.
yelanga, if I'm pronouncing it right? The second question that I have is, what? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Am I still audible?
You are audible.
Oh, so I'm struggling to understand. I'm struggling to understand the definition of the etymology of Modimo Ramasedi. I'm decoding some of the things because when you look into the Wikipedia, it's actually described in the same way as Tlatlamachoolo, as Ngwari, as Mvelenqangi. So my question is, what's your viewpoint on that? Because I'm looking it into the people who actually defined it, Eugene Casalis, Livingstones, and other people. Don't you think they're defining all these names into one, but yet have a different explanation? When you look into like Ramas City, people think Rama City represents the sun, but like Ra is the sun. When you look into the history of the Badu people, about you, Mazulu, Maxhosa, practicing the sun worship, I haven't seen any record of that. Because when you talk about Rama City, aren't you not talking about Ra as if father and mother, the moon, and Sedi and Pedi, its offsprings or the star. But I want to understand it in the context of people that does Ramasedi represents Ra as the father represents Ra, or Ramasedi represents revelation of enlightenment, or in the context of knowledge? And also want to hear your thoughts. Does Tlatlamachoolo and Ramasedi are the same thing? Because when you look at Tlatlamachoolo, is it not the Khoisan, the god of the Khoisan? Because Kau isn't pronounced Kau, if I'm pronouncing it right, that are not the same thing as Kau. Because I'm still decoding some of the things. I'm still trying to get more references and on my own understanding some of the things. So I want you to give me your own understanding so that I'm able to learn.
All right. So the first thing, ne, with ideas like this, deities, higher beings, we need to understand there's a lot of nuance, ne? And It's always contextual. So, for example, you speak about Ramasedi. It's hard to have one fixed definition of these things because you find that Bafukeng, Bamutle, on the eastern side of the Drakensberg, will take Ramasedi for their context and define Ramasedi in their way. It's gonna be, the definition is gonna be related to that of the Batlaping west of the Drakensberg. You understand? There's that nuance of each community in the context of time, as time goes, may adopt different, different understanding or positioning of these deities. But these deities represent, one, higher beings, two, intermediaries between the physical and the metaphysical. So when we speak about Mudimu, there's equivalents in other cultures. There's Unzimu in the Isindebele culture, Amandebele culture. There's the Mulimu and Mudzimu in the Bavenda culture. You find that it simply means, in the simplest form, in the literal form, it means the higher being. Now you understand, names like that are not actual specific names to specific individual, but it's a name that can be used as a label for something else. So Katlamacholo then and Mudimu are not necessarily opposites. Ramasedi, names like that. So if you translate it in the literal sense, Ramasedi is usomalanga or sokukanya, the light giver. You understand? It's not even necessarily gender specific. It's very genderless, actually. The name itself is a name that elevates whatever or whoever this entity is as the entity who oversees the light. Ramasedi, the entity who oversees the light. It's genderless. It's not gender specific. So kukanya. Now Ra, yes, in a lot of the context is masculine in nature. Ra is masculine in nature, but also Ra is used in the naming of things. When we say Ra in the naming of things, it's not just masculine, but also it's used to relate position, to offer a higher position. I'll give you an example. The father of so-and-so is called Ra of so-and-so, right? Not just only because of the gender of that person being the father, but also because they are above whoever they gave birth to in the line of birth. Whereas the sister of someone's father is Ra-Khadi, which is, it's literally two opposing, not even two opposing ideas. It's Ra-Khadi is literally Ra for men, Khadi for female. So the sister of your father is the female father, literally. Now, if you look at it in the literal sense, it's going to confuse you. Female father. You go back to Malume, it's the male mother. So our ideas were not concerned about trivial issues like gender and all those things, but relative rank and position of authority. So when you say Ra, that's a position, a higher position of authority. The person who's referring to Ramasedi as Ramasedi, that person recognizes Ramasedi as being a higher being. Now, Masedi, I am very hesitant. I'm very hesitant to say that Ma is for a female, because this is not a human we're talking about. That Ma may represent a feminine noun in terms of noun classes, but that Ma is also a plural. I'll give you an example. So Matunzi. Tunzi is a shade, right? Amatunzi are many shades. So Matunzi means the Lord of all shades. But it doesn't have to be an actual man. It could be anyone, but someone that is seen by others as the provider of rest, as the provider of shade, the one who brings rest and hope to others, can very well be called somathunzi, because this person inspires hope and rest. Ithunzi is a shade under which we rest when the sun is hot. So somathunzi then may literally means the person who provides shade. It could be a man, it could be a woman, it could be an elder, it could be a child, but somathunzi just means that, really. That so over there comes from the word yise, which means father of. Yise, father of, but somathunzi can literally be a woman. There are many women in history with names like this. You understand? So Ra Masedi then, in essence, means the overseer of light or light-bearing bodies. Could be the stars, could be other cosmic bodies which glow and release light. So I'm trying to move away then from boxing these are ideas that are expressed in nature, and we had to create some kind of naming system for these things. Let me go back then to Mudimo. I don't think Mudimo is literally one specific entity. I think it's a label that is used to refer to a higher being. That's why then there's Badimo as well, to refer to those who have passed. They've passed, they're no longer in the physical now. And as is our culture, those who have passed, they are in the spiritual realm, a higher realm, we assume, we believe, and therefore, Kibadimo, the higher ones, literally, that's what it means. Kibadimo, abezulu, abo basezulu, abo baphezulu. That's what it means. So Mudimo, now that's, that's a singularity right there, which means there's a specific entity that will be labeled Mudimu or Mlimu or Mudzimu. It's not just Batswana Basutu. That's another thing. These ideas are very old. They are not based on people who are from Lesotho or from Botswana or from Baroti land or from Nyasa land. These are old ideas. They precede anything we know right today. That's why we only see in part about these ideas, about our beliefs. We know bits and pieces because these ideas are too old. They even precede our modern identities. So that's Mudimo, that's Ramasedi. Macholo, you're asking if it's not a Khoisan god. But what is that? What is Khoisan? You understand? That's another completely, that's another idea we have to now break into. What's that? Because if I understand very well, Muletsane grew up amongst the Khoi communities. If I understand well, Batlaping are a mixed Khoi group. Same thing with Batlaru. Same thing with Sambakwena.
Bataung.
Bataung, yes. Bataung of Muletsane. You see Bataung, there's even Bafukeng. So when you say then they are Khoisan god, what are you talking about? Are you separating the ones who joined the Bataung, the Bafukeng, the Batlaru, the Bahurut? Are we removing those ones? Oh no, those ones we can count them out. No. Yeah, but so the connection between these indigenous societies is not just a physical connection based on marriage, based on common birth, common descent. It's also in the spiritual systems. There is no Sesotho spiritual systems without Khoi spiritual systems. And the opposite, the vice versa is also true. It's true to AmaZulu as well. It's true for AmaXhosa as well. AmaXhosa talk about uThixo. AmaZulu talk about umlenze munye. AmaSwati talk about mlente ngamunye, the one-legged one. I know in Sesotho, we also have a one-legged entity. Now, the way this entity is described may differ slightly from this group and slightly from that group, but the idea is the same, a one-legged entity. And you realize that there's an older story behind, this one-legged entity. So what I'm saying when I share this story is that even the spiritual systems then, how we view and define these higher beings is going to be shared amongst these groups. So Macholo then, even if you go to then some Khoi communities that may be in Botswana or closer to Lesotho, you may find the equivalent. One may even say it was borrowed, but I'm so much against those nonsensical ideas of people borrowing, because it's premised upon the assumption that those people could not have somehow shared that in origin. Saying people borrowed something from other people is premised upon the premature idea that one group didn't have and therefore needed to borrow from another. But that's not how it is in indigenous cultures. What normally happens, this group has their own duty in society, and therefore this group focuses on this. That's why even our names, one group of people will be called Barolong, the people of the iron. Why? You may go and search that history, why they are called the people of the iron. You may find that, oh wow, they were specialists. They were specialist blacksmiths. Another group may be called Abakwankomo, the people of the cow. You may find that, oh, they specialized in using a cow in this sense. Abakwandlovu, etc. These names were not just random names. There was specific duties. So it's the same even in terms of our spiritual systems. Some groups are good at rainmaking. So you'll find that other groups sort of like mimic those groups' ways when it comes to rainmaking traditions. Another group is good at fire manipulation, working with iron, working with, stone, etc., etc. So that whole idea then of borrowing sounds very premature to me, because the people who even come with those ideas don't even understand what I just explained. So when you say Tlatamacholo or Tlatamacholo, then maybe from Kwe groups, but the Kwe groups are there amongst Batswana, Basotho. They are there amongst Batawung, Batlaru, Batlaping, Bafukeng. You understand what I'm saying? So even Tlatamacholo, then it's still a Sotho-Tswana entity. For the fact that it's amongst Basotho, it's still there. Same thing with Utiko amongst Amaxhosa. Amongst Amaxhosa there was resistance for this entity called Utiko back in the day. Some groups did not want to be associated with Utiko. They only wanted Kamata because they knew Kamata. But it's wrong to even think like that, because now you are closer, you're from deep of Ivaba. You expect anyone else who speaks Xhosa to know, to have the same view of the world as you. But there are people who speak Xhosa who come from areas like Jeffreys Bay, Western Cape side. Those people came with ideas like Tiko and stuff like that. But they are still Xhosa. It doesn't remove their Xhosaness. So within the bigger group, ideas come about Tiko, Kamata, Tai. You understand? Another man called Ngele, aka Makanda. That's why the town, Grahamstown, is called Makanda today. He spoke about Tai. He spoke about Tai, an entity called Tai. You know why? Because these people are big. They occupy massive land areas. They interact with other groups. They incorporate other groups. They get incorporated into other groups, and they share these spiritual systems. They share. That's why then you'll have a diverse base of ideas. So personally, when I look at entities like Mudimo, Ramasedi, Tlatamacholo, and any other ones, really, we must not think of those ideas as human ideas. The reason why they had to be treated as deities is because they are generally non-human things. It could be the personification of nature. It could be the personification of the cosmos. It could be the personification of solar bodies, like the visible stars, the visible planets. It could be ways to personify certain elements that are related to those entities. It could be ways to personify nature, like to personify thunder and storms. You call it Namba, like some of the people in the Eastern Cape used to do. They call it Namba, but we know it's not Namba, it's weather. But to personify and therefore categorize the knowledge related to that entity, they call it Unamba. But Unamba is not some fixed entity. It's just the phenomenon of thunderstorms and lightning. Do you get what I'm saying? So, yes. So with things like spiritual beliefs in our cultures, they are very old, and therefore they can't be Sutu beliefs or Xhosa beliefs or Tswana beliefs, they are older than even the modern days nations we know. Before we became Basotho, what were we? Because if you ask someone, okay, how did Basotho begin? They will take you to Mulapo or someone Napo. But then when you count, you realize, man, Napo was born, must have been born in the 1200s or at least 800 AD. So if Napo was born in 800 AD, what were Basotho in 700 AD? When you start asking questions like that, that's where you get to closer to the no man's land, the place where nobody wants to be, because then you have to detach from tribe now. You have to detach from king. You have to detach from ethnic identity and actually see yourself as what you are.
Okay. No, my brother. Thank you very much. Before I leave, yeah, so people are going to join after me. I'll listen to the panel. Um, what do you encourage the Bantu people? For example, I'm talking about myself. I was
Yeah.
born in KwaZulu Natal, but actually raised in Lesotho.
Yeah.
I moved in Lesotho. So my Zulu is I struggle with Zulu, but I go to my grandmother visit. So do you encourage the Bantu people to marry each other in the way of, okay, if I'm Xhosa, I can go for a Xhosa woman, Zulu woman, or Tswana or Sotho woman? Or do you encourage? Because when I'm looking into this mixing, which is inside the south, especially to the south,
Yeah.
to other, like let's say the colored or the white people and other races. So I'm like, they struggle to understand the Bantus. They struggle to understand Ubuntu. They really struggle. So in a way of, do you encourage men before marriage should actually pay for the bola, have responsibilities and understand the responsibility of being a man? So should women also normalize polygamy, because polygamy is not about men having wives. Polygamy is about women having a husband. I mean, a man is about a woman having a husband. So it was normalized in the old times. Do you encourage men nowadays to actually go back and go to the cultures and understanding why are these things used to be practiced and the reason why, and what are the things which it actually prevented? For example, things like women are being single mothers nowadays. Now men are actually abusing women. You see, all these things which are happening, is it because we run away from our roots, so that all this chaos which is happening? And also, what are you expecting for us here in the south to do, especially as young people, to change? Are we expecting to use our own system but yet being submissive to the colonial system, or to destroy the system by using our own indigenous systems? So we know that the system of democracy, it's a waste of time. How are we changing our economy? How are we changing ourselves spiritually? How are we destroying the system by going back into our indigenous systems? Because trusting on the government system, you know that it's like trusting a prostitute that she's a virgin. So how are we collapsing the system which we are not benefiting, but the minority of people are benefiting within our land? Is it because we lost our spirituality? Is it because we are too submissive to colonialism, that we have lost our roots, that we can't even survive without colonialism? So what are your thoughts about it? I'll listen to the comment session. Thank you
Okay.
for your time.
No, Siyabonga Buti. I don't know your name, so I'll just say my brother, ne? Uh, how do we overcome the system? And then you said a whole lot of things, ne? I'm gonna talk about the abuse first, the whole thing of abusing women. It's a very bad thing. It's very sad, and it's traumatic. Abuse is traumatic, because when you abuse someone, you don't just affect that person that you abuse, you affect other people. It's even worse for people who have children. They tend to do it even in front of the children, and the children, those are memories they cannot remove. So it's a very bad behavior. No one is entitled to another human being. No one is entitled to another human being. And I promise you, there are other ways to resolve things, way better manners in which we can resolve things than abusing other human beings, especially our very own human beings, even worse, those we claim to love. Because generally, people are abused by people they are close with. It's rare for a stranger that you've just met today to come to you and say, hey, you, I'm going to beat you. You don't deserve to live. It's very rare. People are abused by immediate family members, the closest people to them. It really is anti-Ubuntu. Abuse is anti-Ubuntu. So that one is an absolutely unfortunate event. It's a true reality. It's a true reflection of our current reality. Ne? So how do we then fight against those things? Is polygamy the way to go? Let's talk about polygamy. Ne? More like polygyny, because that was the most default thing that used to happen. But people speak about polygyny or polygamy as if every single man on earth had 10 wives in our culture. That was not really the case, There were a lot of people with only one wife. There were many of our people with only one wife. It was men who tended to be wealthy, men who tended to be of higher position in society, noblemen, people who served, with at the king's place. Those people did have multiple wives, but even more so, royalty. Royalty had multiple wives because the royal family, the concern for them was continuity. They had to make sure that they will continue being alive. So that's another thing about polygamy. Polygamy did not necessarily exist to prevent, women who have no husbands or men with no wives. Even during the days of polygamy, there were still people who were not married. That's why there's names for those people. That's why we have names in our languages for someone who's not married, because it was something that used to happen. Né? But it was not necessarily a norm, right? Okay, that's two, the whole thing of polygamy. People want to practice polygamy, by all means they should. But they need to be honorable with it. They need to be very honorable. They need to be honest, forthcoming, transparent, and all that. Because even in these polygamous situations, some people end up killing themselves. Like you have many wives. We've seen it in some of the royal families. The king has many wives. One of the wives not treated well, and then the wives just start dying. You see, situations like that are not optimal. They do very little to even promote this idea of polygamy. But the beautiful thing nowadays is that people are free. Those who want to practice polygamy, by all means, they should actually. But the most important thing is, what is the basis of us as a people? One, is there even an us as a people? Because you're asking me, how do we shatter the system? How do we destroy the system that oppresses us? Now I'm asking you, is there even an us to begin with? Because by the look of things, we are just reminiscing here of an idea that has passed already. The reality on the ground is that we are doing damage to one another. The reality on the ground, you are more likely to be robbed and hijacked by someone who looks like you, who speaks like you. So that's a big problem that needs to be solved by us. We need to create an us. Because it's almost like Tina, the way we operate, we are this default group because we look alike, we speak alike, and therefore we are one. Yes, all evidence suggests that we are one people, but we actually need to agree on what that means right now. Because remember, from the 1400s to the 1900s, it was 400 years of destruction, 400 years of disturbance, 400 years of disequilibrium upon our people. After 400 years of destruction, disequilibrium, we are a sick group of people. Therefore, we need, us, Tina, this current generation, we need to actually sit down and decide what it actually means to be us. What is our basis? Is it Ubuntu? If it is Ubuntu, what comprises Ubuntu? What are the core principles of Ubuntu? How does then Ubuntu translate economically, psychologically, socially, politically? How do we align Ubuntu with our opinion? Because if we say we are a group, we are one ngabantu, therefore we need to have something that unifies us beyond just ukufana and ukuzwana and ukuvana xa sithetha or masikhuluma. We need to have ideas and ideals that unite us at an economic level, at a psychological level, at a social level. Do you understand? And those things lack right now as we speak. We speak here, yo, guys, but tomorrow, if you see me wearing an MK t-shirt or an EFF t-shirt or an ANC t-shirt, already you detach yourself from me. You understand? Do you understand that we actually are so futile? If I come wearing, at some point, if I come wearing an Orlando Pirates t-shirt, someone else will even hate me. So what I'm saying is we have to have a conversation, a kind of council of Nicaea, but not council of Nicaea, council of Abantu. We need to have that first and foremost, come together and decide what are we doing to correct that which was disturbed 400 years ago. Because we cannot continue as if things are fine. Things are not fine. We are in a state of disequilibrium. We are sick. And that's the first thing then we do to destroy this system, is to realize that this system is a disease to us. I hope I'm answering. The first thing to destroy the system that oppresses us is to realize that it is not good for us to live by this system. When we did biology, we learn about something called habitat. And there are animals or species, fauna and flora that inhabit a habitat. You learn about amphibians and reptiles and this and that. Frogs, they live in marsh areas, hippos, etc., etc. Even us, we have our own habitats. Abantu, we have our own habitat. That is why we built houses in a certain manner. That is why we built next to rivers, next to mountains. We took massive amounts of land because that allowed us to exist in an optimal state of being, state of mind, state of body, state of emotion, state of psychology, state of psyche. The way we lived, how we organized ourselves, allowed us to be optimal. Look at the Arabs, for example, the people who inhabit the Middle East. They've got a long culture, not just the Arabs and other communities in those desert areas. They've got a long culture of living in desert areas. They're experts in desert life. There's systems that they've built to be able to thrive in those environments. To this day, these people are so good when it comes to water systems and irrigation systems. They're so good. They're the best nations. Why? Because there's scarcity of water in those areas. What I'm saying is your habitat is built in because we are born of people who have lived in this habitat for thousands of years. We have built in mechanisms to thrive in our habitats. But this system of democracy, as people say, has disturbed that altogether and introduces capitalism, completely unregulated capitalism, or socialism, or communism, or whatever else. None of these systems have anything to do with us. Socialism has nothing to do with us. Communism has nothing to do with us. Capitalism has nothing to do with us. It's not one or the other. All of them have nothing to do with us. That is why our people are divided to this day. One group going, oh no, capitalism is good, man. They go crazy with capitalism. Another one, oh no, I'm a socialist. I'm a true socialist. We love socialism. They go with it. Others, oh no, communism. But then look at the origin of these ideas. Look at the origin of these ideas. They were not by you nor for you. When these ideas were coined, you were not even the slightest thought at these people's minds. So we have to go back then together. We need to have a council of Abantu and a council of Ubuntu Betu. Decide there, right there and then, what is our agenda? What are we? It's like a man that asks a lady, okay, what are we? I've been spending on you, but what are we? You see? That's what we need to decide, because we clearly do not know what we are. Unfortunately, we do not know where we stand, what we exist for. It's one man for himself. So to overcome a system, there needs to be an us to begin with. And that us cannot be default. It can't be default. It needs to be agreed upon. Okay, now, umZulu, impondo, liswati, ihlubi, umndebele, umxhosa, musuthu, mutswana, mupedi, mulobedu, mupulana, muvenda, mtsonga. Every single one of us, even the diaspora, we need to actually decide this is what makes us. And this is our nuance. You are Zulu, you are Xhosa, you are Ndebele, Mutswana, etc. That's fine. But at the core of it all, this is what us is. This is why a lot of these so-called African liberation movements fall apart. They don't know, they don't have identity. And this is why movements like AfriForum always come back. Even if they fall, they always come back. Why? Because they have a focused agenda. So, Tina, as a people, we need to be, first and foremost, decide what it means to be us. Because right now, it's dark and we're looking for isiche. We're trying to, just going to school, trying to get a job, trying to pay rent, trying to pay for your car, trying to pay for your mortgage, trying to send your schools to kids. That's fine, that's life. But that's all there is to it, really. We don't have a plan. Even us fighting to go back to our roots and who we are, we don't even have a plan of how that looks like, what that looks like. Because one thing we cannot run away from is that we live in this context right now, in a global economy. So let's say now, AmaZulu find a way to reclaim their lands and all that. AmaXhosa do the same thing. Are there systems in place to establish connections with similar-minded communities? Are there systems in place to establish trade? Amandebele, where they are, maybe the land is good for banana. Are there systems to establish economic activities between ourselves? Do you get what I'm saying? There's a creator called Onezwa Mbola. Onezwa Mbola does, a channel where she cooks stuff she has raised, foraged. And yeah, she puts it in writing, but she cooks traditional foods with her own twist. And one thing I like about Onezwa's work is that the people who buy into that idea, ngabantu bakuthi, it's our people. You understand? Onezwa now started going to different provinces, selling her culture, her traditional way of doing things to our people, and they're buying it. We start with things like that. I spoke about deciding who we are. That is the basis, the fundamental principles that guide who we are. But then we need to establish economic activity amongst ourselves. We need to establish, like, for example, there's Islamic finance. You go to financial institutions like Oasis. There's things like Islamic finance. They've got practices that guide them in terms of borrowing, lending, in terms of interest payments. Even Jewish people have the same thing. Between Jewish people, there's things that guide them in terms of who do you do business with. There's a Jewish business this side, there's a Zulu business this side. That Jewish person is going to choose the Jewish business. Even if it fails, they'll still choose a Jewish business. Do you get what I'm saying? Because that is an agreed upon thing. It's a generally accepted Jewish principle. Would you say that there is a generally accepted Zulu principle or a generally accepted Xhosa principle that says, okay, if you're a Xhosa business owner, uthengisa umaXhosa, There is Gucci this side. There is Makosa this side. There is Balenciaga there, which are European people, by the way, who run and benefit from those businesses. Which one am I going to go with? Even if I'm not happy at some point, am I going to go with Makosa? Am I going to go with Rich Mnisi? Or am I going to go with Gucci? That is now the economic conversation. Because unfortunately, we can't just reminisce on how we used to dance and how we used to hunt. Oh, Shaka killed so-and-so. Oh, Uyinza killed so-and-so. The great king of the Xhosa, the great king of the Zulu. Oh, Mushweshe waka Gyamurata. You can talk about Mushweshe all day, but at the end of the day, we need to engage in economic activities. And that requires a decent and healthy level of group economics. Is there a university that is controlled by a long-term vision of abantu bakuthi? Cambridge ikhona for amangesi. Oxford is there for amangesi. MIT ikhona for Americans. Harvard and Stanford ikhona for Americans. China have their own institutions that are based on their principles and their agenda. Singapore is the same. In South Africa, you think UNISA cares about you and me? You think UCT care about you and me? They just take advantage of the government funding that they get. They have no interest in actually doing anything good for you and I. So ingaba ikhona iziko lokufundela elithi thina we promote the Zulu generally accepted principles and practices. Even if ulingesi, even if ulibhulu, even if ulijamani, if you come to this institution, you need to abide by the ways of amaZulu, amaXhosa, or abantu generally. MJ, come and join as a guest. Come and extrapolate your views. You're more than welcome to join as a guest. You see now there's Soltech. There's Soltech that is Afrikaner focused. There was Stellenbosch before, Northwest University, UJ, Witwatersrand, which were generally Afrikaner focused. But now they're in the hands of the government. They're public institutions. They're publicly funded. But the Soltech, it's there to promote the agenda and the interests of Amabulu. So my brother, the questions you asked me, Uguti, how to overcome the system, you actually need to have an alternative system. You don't overcome the system with nothingness. You don't overcome it with emptiness. You can't say, look, I'm rejecting this financial system. What are you going to do then? Are you going to buy with Itopis, the coke? Are you going to go picking up stones and buying with stones? There needs to be a system, an alternative system. There needs to be an alternative system that is agreed upon by people who are willing, who are willing to engage in that system. So what I'm saying is, Amandebele, AmaZulu, AmaXhosa, AmaHlubi, etc., all these groups, they actually need to have an alternative country altogether. It doesn't have to be a politically, but economically, there needs to be an alternative country. Culturally, there needs to be an alternative country for izizwe zakwantu, where we know these are our practices culturally that guide us. Ubuntu can be that then. But Ubuntu nje, as a buzzword that's used, it's like the word diversity. It's empty and worthless. It's futile. It's a trivial, repetition. It's not going to help anyone. If Ubuntu was so good, why do we have, 60% abantu bakuthi poor? Why is it so? Discovery. We are diverse as abantu. We are diverse, but we have things that connect us. You understand? We've got things that connect us. What I'm saying is, if Tina, we say we want to reject the system oppresses us all. Thank you, my brother observer. The system oppresses us. It doesn't discriminate. So even our diversity, the system doesn't even look at our diversity. Because now we're talking about abantu in the context of this system, this democratic capitalist, socialist, communist system. That is the context under which we're talking. So we can be diverse within ourselves, but the system does not check for our diversity when it discriminates. We are payana, they look at the same Mufukeng. Your loan, Baba, your home loan is going to be of a high rate, and that's it. They don't check, oh, are you Zulu? Oh, within the Zulu, are you Zungu? Or are you Kwabe? No, they don't check those things. There's a mechanism in which the system operates where one group seems to be constantly disadvantaged. But you can't now say, oh, no, I want to get out of the system, but you're not actually doing the actions that are going to get you out. So my brother who asked me how we do this thing, yeah, we need to reclaim our traditions and all that, because those traditions are based on years and years and years of reliable history. We've got built-in mechanisms that help us thrive when we, live in our traditions. But those traditions will exist within 2025 context. They're not going to exist in the 1552 context. It's 2025 now. So whatever we say we want to do, we want to revive, it must exist within the 2025 context. If there's a tradition where, and I'm just speaking up hypothetically, if there's a tradition where people used to beat children, it may not necessarily work nowadays. There may be another way of exerting punishment and, conveying lessons. The 7 says, reclaiming would take 100 years. The challenges are far beyond. I totally agree. And I think that's good. It's good that you are already a realistic person. So that's the right mindset. You don't think you're going to reclaim something in 20 years. No, the damage is too much. It would take 100 years. That's exactly why there needs to be a plan. These financial institutions didn't just have Islamic finance. People fought for there to be Islamic finance, the practice of Islamic finance, to serve the interest of Islamic people. There's Jewish finance systems. Jewish people made sure that those financial systems of Jewish people, they fight for them and they make sure that they are there. When you go to buy food, there's a halal label there. It didn't just become there. People fought for it over hundreds of years. If you are in a Jewish place, Jewish restaurant, you will abide by kosher living standards. Even if it's an Airbnb, if you are not a practicing Jewish person, you will sleep on a separate side. You will eat with separate, articles, separate crockeries, separate cutlery, because that's kosher practice. You understand? So these things didn't just fall out of the sky to be there. People decided, came together, made them happen. Go to Singapore. 40 years ago, Singapore was as good as Zambia. It was as good as Zambia. But look at Singapore now. It didn't just happen by chance. They made it happen. 20 years. In 20 years, China lifted 600 million people out of poverty. There was a step-by-step program to make that happen. It was not by default. 100 years back, Chinese were immigrants all over the world, working, building railways in America and stuff like that. They were immigrants. They were foreigners. You understand? So there is actually, a possibility that when people come together and decide who they are and what it means to be them and what their agenda is, the actually outcomes do appear. Outcomes, we can see them. There's many case studies we can do on many different groups in the world. So I think that was a good question, my brother, that you asked the question. I think it's an amazing conversation we could have as a group of people. But what I think will happen, I don't think everyone is going to buy into this. And I think that's good. Those who buy into it need to come together then. And this is where now secret societies are born. Because not everyone sees the same way. Not everyone has the same wish for a group. But then secret societies are born where the reason why secret societies are born is to concentrate power in the people who have the means and vision to make the change that needs to be made. You know, apartheid was at the forefront was not the politicians you see by day, but the people you couldn't see by night. The Broederbond. It was comprised of pastors, professors, engineers, psychologists. These are the guys who did things in the dark, but somehow built up these universities you see today, built up parliamentary buildings, built up the union buildings. You see, there's this university called UJ, Rand Afrikaanse Universiteit. It's a very clear Broederbond project with underground tunnels. Huh? You see companies like Santam, Sanlam, Absa. Hey, you think they just happened to be built? No, there was mechanisms in the shadows that we couldn't see that made sure that to this day, those mechanisms are still working. To this day, secret societies still exist to ensure the advancements of certain interests. The reason? Because not everyone is going to buy into the same thing. So this is what I'm doing then. I understood that for us to even be able to establish rapport with each other, we needed to establish the sacredness of language, to recenter the sacredness of our language. And this is what I've been doing. My channel exists for that, to elevate our languages, not just one or two, all our languages, because I know they come from the same source. So once we recenter the sacredness of our languages, we've established the channels through which we convey message. And that's a very big step, language. Through language, then we're able to codify, to create secret communication channels. Thank you, Observer. Thank you so much. MJ.
Tata ndiyabulela.
Kamau.
I follow you. Yesterday I was part of the your life, and hey, kunzima tata. I was born mina. Okay, Sesotho. Yeah. Digumgekwa by fathers. I followed you so many times, and I was the one who asked you about Amakikwa. My paternal side, Ama Uludidi. No, my father's part, Kiba Boom Happy. But happy. There's a lot of things that it's happening, and Mara, I appreciate whatever Zamangwe push. I really appreciate that, because it's within us. We have to fight it. They mostly big, but they fought it because they understand it. There was a book that I've read. Ebuang ka the beginning, the us, or why we divided. There was us, and then there was a confusion. Say, we are living perfect. How about we confuse people and then talk a different language? That's why we can sense, or because vending, there's certain language that we can relate to. You go to the ones what we call the queer people, you'll find the same languages. You find more batuma babitswang bataung. Ho na le ba hlakileng ka mmala ba basweu. Ho na le ba batsho. There's a different blood, and it tells us badimu barone maybe batlipil, even though we don't believe in us, and there's a purpose in this life. If Africa can become perfect, no white person can live. If we can unite, and there's people who understand that, like the Russians and the Chinese people, they know the truth. Or if black people can say we are united, and then nobody's gonna benefit. The race here, Mahua, it's very limited. And it's like someone came with an understanding, Yahori. Black people got resources. Black people are the ones who owns everything. The son ke kamaku kapo kam what it means so I was born around 1983. There was a show in LA, yeah, children of the maybe the children of the son of God. There was go never balatella the gold. These people from Portuguese. I can't remember that show, but those people were dark in skin. So there's voyagers who seek these things, and eventually I felt like these cartoons, and they felt like these people who come and seek gold for them to survive. The same thing politically. There's Gaddafi and Oblew. There's Steve Biko. Once you become self-awareness about once we become self-awareness about ourselves, that's where we damage everything. What I'm saying is black people got a purpose to live, but that purpose, it doesn't mean we have to be self-aware and control economy. Once we do that, we become gods again. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying once we become one and nobody controls us, we control the world, because every wealth is being extracted from Africa. You go to Congo, you go to like today, Bafana and this team exciting it's okay. But I was surprised the 54 countries, nobody knows about them. And those people, they speak Swahili. Well, I'm saying the black consciousness is the mother of all.
Yeah.
We can never have one language. Once we've got languages, because even in the Kwe, there's different dialects. And I've seen yesterday, I was watching yesterday Your Life, and two brothers, that other one, because from my background, what I've seen into system, my mother was a pure Xhosa from Eastern Cape. I would see 20 but was that, and that I believe it's a faku, and I in that context. Mara, want to one, do you understand one that wa lubisa bom kekwa mara o di sitswe ke bom happy o bua Sesotho ke tle mona le nna ke bua Sesotho when you are born there's something hlayang, you will always see it. Bana ba ka etsala the same thing. So if we are black people and start to appreciate the nature of things, like we don't have a zoo, the life in like the white people, they came here, we appreciate the human beings, we are good people at heart, but they took advantage of us. We are godly people and we have to accept it, whether we are killing ourselves or whatever. It's wrong, Mar. When you look at it, once we become one,
Yeah.
we are the greatest. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. I will call you Mkikwage for just for simplicity. Thank you, Mkikwa. Thank you, Chikijwa. Thank you, Mvamba. Mvamba iketile mnqayile inqindi. I have Kikwa blood myself. From my mother's side, I have Kikwa blood. So yeah, I take that very seriously. No, I agree, my brother. I agree that we have to appreciate and exist in the reality of who we are. More than anything, there's a lot of things about ourselves that we take for granted. And I think, as you said, you appreciate the bit that we do. I also know that we just do a bit. It's just a bit of work. It's a daily thing, one day at a time, In my language, we say, at some point, iyayondelelana. Ukondelelana is to come together. So iyondelelana iyahlangana at some point. All the bits and pieces. Every single live I host may not be for everyone, but for every single live, there's at least one person who connects the dots that day. And I think that is the point above all else. Somebody must connect the dots. They will take the baton from me and go their way. Tomorrow's live may be for a different crowd of people. The day after may be but ultimately the goal is one: to get our people to come back and be knit together, because that is the only power. Us, we cannot expect something from outside. You rightly mentioned the Russians. People like the Russians, people like the Chinese. These are a group of people with strong sense of will, to self-define. Lessons can be taken, lessons that are applicable to us from such groups. Lessons can be taken. There are other groups in the world who've done the exact same thing. They exhibit a strong sense of self-definition. They want to self-define. They want to decide their future. And this is what this is the level we need our people to get to. We need to get our people to that level where they're able to want to decide their own future. All right. Thank you, brother. I want to answer one question. There's someone, I'm not sure if it's you, Dlamini. You asked about Umagojela. I don't know too much about Umagojela, but I know about Umagojela wakwazungu. Umagojela of the Zungu nation. I'm not sure if you're the one who asked about Umagojela. But Umagojela that I know about was a chief in KZN. Well, we use words like chief, but honestly, we should not be using these words, man. But just to make everyone comfortable. Inkosi uMagojela ngokamfana wendlela. Umfana wendlela okamanzini kaTshana, kaNcwana, kaGwabini, kaZungu. Uthi umfana wendlela ke, one of his ancestors wabulawa nguShaka, umanzini kaTshana, kaNcwana, kaGwabini, kaZungu. Wabulawa nguShaka, wayesilwa emabuthweni ke. Uthi yena uMagojela libutho wayele kulo libutho elibizwa ukuba nguNgoba Makhosi. Kungoba Makhosi. Ngabantu bakwaZungu. There's a book. It's called 1979 Edited Notes on Magojela Kamfana Wendlela. It's not a book actually. It's an interview with Magojela himself. I think you can check it online, a PDF. 1979 Edited Notes, Magojela Kamfana Wendlela. So that's the Magojela I know about. I don't know much about any other Magojela. Anyway, to continue with the subject, feel free, guys, to post comments and questions and stuff. To continue with the subject of language, it's one of the vessels It's one of the vessels that we still have some level of control over. But language now is endangered because I think we are probably the last generation. In 50 years from now, our languages are going to be extremely compromised because the children that are born are completely in the dark when it comes to our languages. When I was born, my mother is from 1955. My father is from 1948. So my parents were born in the 40s and the 50s. They grew up in the 50s and the 60s. You understand? Their parents are from the early 1900s, 1918. In fact, my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, is from the late 1800s, 1890s. That's just 2 generations away. And then the generation before that is mid 1800s, and the one before that is early 1800s. The one before that is late 1700s. So we still had some access to those, and those purer ways of speaking and all that. So I learned from my parents a great deal. They're old. But now the thing is, the children right now, they don't have much exposure to the old way of speaking, the old cultural practices. You understand? They don't. In fact, they start school very early. Now, I never went even to crash. I started grade 1. So those first 7 years of my life, I was learning purely from my parents, who learned from people who were from the early 1900s and late 1800s. Do you understand the unbroken, pipeline of knowledge transfer from the late 1800s to me directly? Because we did not have a culture of taking children at a young age to crash and then taking them to preschool and then taking them to primary. Like, basically, you don't actually get to stay with your child like that. But now, that is hit full force. Kids are taken to crash, preschool, blah, 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 all these different type of things. Some kids even go to camps during holidays. So they don't even get a chance to learn, phrases, idioms, the stories, myths, inganekwane, intsomi. They don't learn those things. They don't learn how to sing and dance in the traditional manner. So 50 years from now, I can promise you the languages that will be spoken are going to be, so bad. So we are literally the last frontier. And I think this is why there's an awakening that's taking place. We are the last frontier to preserving at least this aspect of our existence, language. Because language informs process of thought, as the 7 says. Shallow language makes shallow thinkers. I was speaking just now, a few hours ago, about the importance of reading. But not just reading, I think just importance of having knowledge, acquiring knowledge linguistically. I was saying that when you're someone who acquires knowledge linguistically, it broadens and widens your vocabulary primarily, but it also improves your diction. It improves your speech. It improves your speech pattern even. You tend to speak much more clearly. You tend to lose all the placeholders like you find the right words to express ideas. You tend to describe things more accurately. Now imagine you have shallow language. You will not even know how to explain certain ideas in that language. And this is how languages die. This is how languages die. This is how people still think that we can't express concepts of physics and mathematics in our languages. This is why people still think that we cannot express biology in our languages. How is that even possible? We're people of nature, man. There's no way we would struggle to express science in our languages. So that's already, the rot has begun. The corrosion has begun. Our people do not know how to express our ways of life in our languages. It's so sad. So I think language is kind of like an emergency situation we need to revive. We are beasts of astrology. We are beasts of cartography. We're able to, calendar systems. We need to revive our language. We need to revive our calendar systems. And we need to revive our healing practices. I think once we start doing that, we'll be able to recenter relations within families, what it means to be a family. In our indigenous philosophies, we need to have dedicated indigenous philosophy. Indigenous philosophy. You take the philosophical ideas of Basotho. We explore those ideas. We preserve those ideas. We take the philosophical ideas of AmaZulu, AmaHlubi, AbaXhosa, all of them combined, because these ideas share common concern. And that concern is for the longevity and continuity of the people, Abantu. So we need to re-establish and revive those things. Those are the mechanisms, those are the tools that are going to help us advance our being as a people. Ndabezitha is saying he grew up in KZN and did English and Afrikaans in school, so the Zulu language was affected. That's true. There are many like you. When I went to university, even before university, I remember I went to this camp in Northwest, Maropeng. We met with kids from all different provinces. I was shocked to see someone who can't speak their language, who only speaks English. I was literally shocked. It was this other girl from Durban. She literally could not speak any language except English. That was the first time in my entire life that I saw that in real life. I thought everyone could speak their language, but then that was naive of me. She couldn't speak any other language. So, and then I went over to university. Hey, I saw even more who could not even speak. And do you know what that does? Any effort of those people trying to fit in within their so-called culture are so difficult. Zonke inzame nemigudu ifana mthanyana. Zonke inzame nemigudu ifana mthanyana. They are so detached. Thousands of years of existence detached within one generation. There's nothing wrong with sending your child to some private school if you want. But ensure, if you have money to pay for private school, you surely have money to ensure that your child learns their language. And not just their language, but the best version of their language. Surely. So the problem is not the money, but rather the mindset of the parents. But we also need to remember now, the parents who raise us are actually victims. They are victims of a system. So we must be careful of our parents as well when it comes to certain ideas. They're the same people about umlungu nguThixo. They're the same people about umlungu nguThixo. Umlungu lunge kakhulu. It's them. But you need to understand, they were literally moored to say those things. They were blacksamed. So we kind of have to be critical sometimes of some of the ways they did things. I spend a lot of time looking for resources. I spend a lot of time looking for audios, interviews, books, but I incline towards interviews nowadays, you see. A lot of time I spend it, and money, and data, And these things are there. If you really look for them, you will find them, trust me. So if parents are able to pay thousands and hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands of rands to a school fees to send a child to an IEB school, I'm sorry. There's no reason for that child not to speak their language. It's completely embarrassing. Uti, our parents are our children. Now, it's true. It is very true. Our parents are our children. They're our children now. So we need to be very, very, very wary of them. They are afraid. But we need to understand, do you know German Shepherd dogs? Do you know German Shepherd dogs, when they chase you, they are being sent after you to chow you? Huh? They were being chased by German Shepherd dogs, these people. They were being burnt alive. Nipples would be torn from their breasts if they were caught by the government. The men, I don't even want to speak about what used to be done to them. Do you know when a German Shepherd dog chases you, it's after you, it's massive, it's well trained. And these guys, they will send you there to a fence so that you jump off the fence. As you're trying to jump the fence, the German Shepherd jumps and it chows your ankle. So our parents have those traumas. That's why they don't even talk about those experiences. And on top of that, there's political violence. If you are wearing an ANC t-shirt, you get killed. If you are wearing an IFP t-shirt, you can get killed any moment. If you are wearing a UDM t-shirt, like it was a mess. So we need to understand, we must think of our parents as victims and also people who are, psychologically vulnerable. They need some psychiatric intervention. Just like we do as well, because there's no way we can invest so much energy into inventing the next Amapiano move, but we invest so little energy into establishing an alternative financial, system within this system. There's no way that I'm gonna feel better if I buy Fabian and not buy Batu. There's no way that I'm gonna feel better if I choose to buy Balenciaga and not buy Makosa or Rich Mnisi. Our people need serious psychological and psychiatric intervention. Why is it so? Singamageza because sikhuliswa ngamageza. Singamageza because sikhuliswa ngamageza siyaqeqa ngesixhosa. Siyagula. We are sick. But we're not sick enough because our people are not tired. They're not tired enough. So we need to recenter. I said it in one of my lives that we are actually sick, and to administer healing, we need to kind of come back to the center. We need to recenter. We are losing the boy child. We are losing the boy child. Even women can see it. They can see it nowadays. They are starting to talk about it, right? We are losing the boys, eh? They're detaching. Umntwana wakho umthumela njani kwizitha zakho ayofundiswa zizo? How do you, hayi siyagula. Asiphilanga. Siyagula. We have to help ourselves. That's the thing. The beauty of the situation is that nobody's going to help us. Nobody's going to help us. We have to help ourselves. That is the beauty of the situation. Amzo, gena put.
Molweni, ndiyavakala.
Molo bhuti iyavakala.
Hayi, mandibulise kumntu wonke okhoyo apha endlini enkulu. Wanibethe emlonyeni ndithe ndisacofa nje ujoin wabe sewusithi Amzo ngena yangathi ubuyazi uba ndiyayithanda le topic. So maniqale ngapha bhuti wami. Le nto isusela phi? Ubuqobhoka bhuti mandingabe ndiyisakude andizukwazi uyishuka coat. Ubuqobhoka khoti mani yam njani ubuqobhoka? Ndisho mos uyalazi iqobhoka nawe ba. So le nto isusela phi? Isusela kwinto yoba abantu babe ngamaqobhoka. Secondly, philosophy.
If I can clarify for people who don't know, amaqobhoka are basically, the word qobhoka means to be pierced through. To be pierced through, to be torn. So amaqobhoka are those who have been torn apart by the system of the West, who have accepted the system of the West, the views of that system. They think it's primitive to be us. They think it's ugly to speak our language, and all those ugly things that the system represents. So amaqobhoka are those who have accepted that way of life, which is us, basically, majority of our people.
Yeah, but in essentially Christians, most partly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to be offensive there. Ndiyabazi babanjani. So in essence, iqala lento philosophy, right? Abantu might think that philosophy comes from Germany, comes from France, Italy, because of the scholars or Aristotle, Noban. In yabona nathi sibe sinayo iphilosophy yethu apha eAfrica, like your likes of bo Nkrumah kanje and others yabo. So essentially qala phi ubuntu. Once we grasp the concept of ubuntu and we understand why it is there and how it is there and why it is there, because ubuntu stresses on teamwork, majority, many hands make work light, and it each almost land. So ubuntu is generosity, caring, sharing amongst for the better of the community, not for individual browse, as opposed to the Western idea of umntu uyazitshela, umntu uyazibonela. Yabo, so laa nto leyana yaqala phaa udisconnecta, laa nto yoba sisuke kwi-concept yobuntu siye kwi-liberalism, the American dream. And then ususela lapho ke ngoku it went to culture, which is Christianity. So ngendlela abaguqula ngayo abantu bakuthi into yoba baguqulela into yoba balijongele phantsi isiko neculture yabo ne. So ngelo hlobo ke ngoku baphela abantu bengayiboneli intweni iculture, isiko. So essentially they did not see or feel the need yoba umntu makafunde lubanzi, umzekelo ngolwimi lakhe okanye wabo, yabo. Hence why you have nowadays ufike abantu bathi hayi mna ndizokukhatha off, andinaxesha laloo nto. Rhotmani yam, ayingekho loo nto leyo kudala uba uzokukhatha off. Khatha off ntoni? Ba hayi mna ndiseno, ayikho loo nto leyo. It's because they've created the false analogy that you have options. Buddha yam, wakhatha off. Ayikho enye ifemeli ophinde ube nayo, tyana yam, soze. Whether you like it or not, ifemeli yakho will always be family. So whether wakhatha off, awamkhatha off, okusalayo ekugqibeleni yifemeli yakho. And one of these days, kuyawufuneka niphinde nihlale nonke nincokole in the same space. Ndigqithe apho. Isuke kuloo nto leyo bhuti wam ize kule nto ke ngoku mandenze umzekelo yale nto yokwaluka. Andithi mosi amagqobho kaye anayo le nto yoba isintu no demonic nikhonza abantu zi-sacrifices, you are ritualist, witch doctor, ntoni zonke zawo man, yabo. But then when it comes to into yoba makoluko, uyawufika ke ngoku abantu kuthiwa hayi woluke isicawe. Wakwayivaphi loo nto leyo? Ayikho loo nto leyo Rhotmani. Xana if you denounce i-culture, idenounce yonke. So ufuna udenouncer small parts and then ezinye parts.
So they are basically uqala ngokubetha emlonyeni.
Sure, but
The hybridization of
exactly. Uyabo. So umntu ngoku ufuna ufitha in macala onke. Sentsho awukwazi kaloku ukuthi wena you don't believe in umzekelo you deem into yabantu abaphantsi as demonic, ritualist, witch doctor. Kaloku xa udenounce loo nto leyo udenounce isiXhosa endithi. Xa udenounce isiXhosa endithi udenounce nesidoda. So it's like isele uyidenounce yonke kaloku sufuna uba on the fence. Sufuna uthatha u-10% apha, uthatha u-5 apha, uthatha u-3 apha. That's not gonna work. Hence why abantu banintsi ngoku belahleka is because ngaba cwimpi umntu athathe isicuku apha athi hayi ndizawudibanisa nalena, thatha isicuku apha. Uba uyi-Christian iba yi-fully Christian, uba wenza isintu iba sisintu fully, uba uyi-Muslim uba yi-Muslim fully, uba uyayibona. So enye iproblem uba lapha sigqithe apho bhuti wam size kule nto yombhakama ne. So our culture or influenced by okay, I don't know. Ayikhona nje i-comment ebendiyifunda apha bhuti. So size apho size kwinto yompakamo Rhotmani. Bokuqaphele ngoku bhuti wam ne. Ama-Rhotmani umzekelo alingana nawe nokwenyuka angatshatileyo. Uyawufumaniseka uba mhlawumbi kumzi mhlambi kukho ibras noba zi-6 mhlambi kuloo 6 kutshate 3 or 4 and then kuyawufumanisa ke ngoku kuloo 3 or 4 itshatileyo yafumanisa umfazi kabani akazenzi into ezithile, umfazi kabani yena uyazenza ezithile, umfazi kabani uyazenza into ezithile, which is all on the basis of uba umyeni wakhe yena ufika abeke ntoni, uqhuba ntoni, uhlala entweni enjani, unxiba ntoni. Yabona uba we have based the essence of culture and the functions of culture, we have based them upon the economy, which is we have based them upon i-wealth, into yoba umntu unemali engakanani okanye urhola kangakanani. Uyayibona? Yenye into ke ngoku leyo elahlekisayo ubhuti wam. Yabo, uyawufika ke ngoku ufike umfazi kabani yena ufika Friday kodwa umfazi kabani ebefike ngomvulo. And then xa ifika umfazi kabani yena akazuwenza amathumbu okanye akazuyenza into ethile yena umfazi kabani. Uyayibona loo nto? And ke ngoku what is into ebuhlungu wena Janam into yoba kwa ii-hotman ezi zithi zilwela isintu ziyayipromowutha laa nto yoba hayi soze mna umfazi wamathintini, umfazi wam akanothintini. Not knowing uba Janam uyayimosha because in the long run le nto lena is gonna be taken as a norm, into yoba umntu oneposition ethile okanye one-assets ezithile they have more say okanye i-say yakhe is more valued than eyo umntu. Kanti ke esiXhoseni ayikho njalo because everyone has a function esiXhoseni. Waphangela wanento awabinanto. EsiXhoseni everyone has a role and a function to play. Ndidlule apho bhuti wam ndize kule ka you made an example of I think being Balenciaga nalo bumenza.
Yeah, Balenciaga Gucci maxhosa.
Yes. Ke uyawufika umntu angene athi yhu kwamaXhosa akho asikho iskipa esingaphansi ko-6,000 kodwa lo mntu lowo the same person xa ebheke eKapa phaa eWaterfront okanye kwezo ndawo uyawufika athathe ijakethi ye-14,000 kaBalmain okanye kaGucci okanye kabani kodwa kunzima le kamaXhosa. So ke ngoku ngalo analogy uzama ukuthi Yves Saint Laurent no Cartier no bani babhetere okanye they are more of value than umaXhosa because wena awusoze ubhatale 6k umaXhosa kodwa ungayibhatala 14k ka-Yves Saint Laurent. Why? Ayenzi sense loo nto leyo because that is isuka kumjita ongumXhosa le nto. You're supposed to be supporting. In fact ibifana uba sipromota yena kahle kunabantu singabaziyo, uyabo? So ibuye ke ngoku Hotman ibuyele apho ba it has gone to such an extent that nento encinci such as clothing umntu uyibona as soze ndibhatala imali enga for le nto kodwa uyakwazi uhamba uyothatha Louis Vuitton phaa nge-27k. Uyayibona loo nto le kodwa kunzima le 6 kamaXhosa. Why izawuba nzima i-6 kamaXhosa? Because ingumaXhosa. Uyayibona? So yacreata loo nto leyo ke ngoku wena Hotman loo nto leyo. Mandiphela apho.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. What I'm getting is that this whole thing, the distraction or the fixing of a state of status quo sabantu bakuthi has to be a group effort. You can't say because when you have money, oh no, I don't abide by the same rules as everyone else. No, if we say singabantu abaphila ngalendlela, we are Zulu, we live by the Zulu culture, we are Xhosa, we live by the Xhosa culture, or generally as abantu, we live by Isintu, then that would mean we have to abide by the same principles. No, just because you have money now, we cannot allow you to go around abusing children. We cannot allow you going around abusing young girls. We cannot allow you going around, abusing men, abusing young men. Because you have money, you have resources. We cannot let you go around breaking the principles of the culture and of the way of being. And this is what you see in communities like Muslims, Arab communities, Jewish communities. This is what you see in places like China. They don't play They have a long-term vision, an agenda, and you sign up for it. If you don't sign up for it, you go to another country. There are many Chinese who don't agree with the Chinese agenda. They go and become immigrants in other countries because they don't want to live by this way. That's fine, but they go. The system is not going to change for them. Same thing in Russia. We have many Russians who don't believe in the way things are done in Russia. They must go because majority of the people say we are part of this. So now we're seeing to get us, if we want to say we are reclaiming our essence, if we want to reclaim our essence, we have to have a way that needs to be respected by everyone. Yeah, so I agree it's a group effort. And I still want to reiterate, I would rather buy from Ubatu, the shoes, you understand, than from, I don't know, any shop that takes money. What is this? Spitz. These brands from Italy, Cavella and all those things. I'd rather buy from Ubatu because I can actually see the majority of people these people are employing, first and foremost, are South African. Abantu bakuthi. I can see them. I can see Uthiyo Baloyi every year doing a campaign to donate school shoes to abantwana besikolo. I see it with my own eyes. I don't see the founder of Louis Vuitton. I don't see him going around. In fact, he's a racist. You know, he doesn't go around donating stuff to Aban Baguti. He doesn't care who's hired or who's not hired, as long as it's going to make profit and increase the share price. And that's the whole thing. Then again, that a Jewish person is going to prioritize a Jewish business for the very purpose that that business is guaranteed, or at least it can be seen to contribute back to their Jewishness. Same thing with Islamic peoples. They do the same thing. You understand? They do the same thing. Our people go crazy for things like iPhone, you know. iPhone, you know, oh no, iPhone, oh, it's great, man. And you know, like I don't know if we should create an alternative. So our people need to get to a point where we create value for ourselves. We need an alternative system that guards marriage practices, an alternative system that guards and protects our people, an alternative system of finance, an alternative system of education. We don't even have funds in place to pay for education. Now our kids are forced to go and apply for NSFAS for a government that does not even like our people. You apply for NSFAS. NSFAS cannot pay for you to learn real skills. Generally, it doesn't pay for you to learn really advanced skills. And if we had funds of our own, we'd just take the kids, send them to Mexico to learn, you know, how to build houses in the most effective way. Take the kids, send them to China to learn the most advanced technologies. They come back, we start building our provinces. We start building Eastern Cape, we build KwaZulu, we build Kwandebele, we build Eswatini for ourselves without having some government tell us what to do. Yabon, so ukuvuselela ubuntu bethu, ukuvuselela igugu lethu, we have to take ngezandla zethu, ngolwimi lwethu, ngamasiko ethu, ngemithetho yethu, take charge and run things. Democracy is not going to help us in any way. If it was going to help, it should have helped us by now. We are in a worse state than we were. The average family of Umdomnyama in South Africa is 5 times poorer than the average of Umdomshop in a democratic South Africa. Do you understand what that means? It means the system is against you. So my people, I'm going to end the live now. It's just past 1 a.m. I wanted to check in, just do a short live today, which is tomorrow, by the way. I'm gonna go live. It's gonna be much longer. I want us to talk about certain things that are important. So please, maybe avail yourselves. I'm gonna try to start the live maybe around, I don't know, afternoon, evening, probably. So yeah, I will see you guys then. I'm available on YouTube, Sandile Tugani. I'm available on YouTube, Sandile Tugani. I do post all the lives there. Here on TikTok, if you want to support the work, you can always subscribe. There's different offerings, you know, from the cheapest to the most expensive with different benefits. But the most expensive one, if you do subscribe, then I add you to a group. That's where I teach people the Kwe languages, but not just that, but and link them to modern day languages. And that's where I also remove the lies that these languages have to be click languages. So yeah, you can always subscribe to support the work. Go to my YouTube. We have the PayPal link if you want to contribute something, because I'm working towards building a podcast, and I'm working towards some documentaries as well. So peace, my people. Amakuxhosi, makube mhlophe, makube hele, makudede ubuntu kuvela ukukhanya. Kusandile lo uhlathi uJambasi. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. Yeah, let's keep on learning. And if you're struggling with the languages, it's fine. That's how we learn, man. I try by all means to let people speak their language, because that's the whole point. I cannot force people to speak English. It's just wrong. Peace.